Hello and good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone is ready for tea time SEO. Got their tea, cake, maybe some snacks ready. Today we have an international tea time. I'm in Barcelona. We've Carrie in Putney, Lucy up in Nottingham in the UK, Marco's in Belgium, and we have Nikki in Colorado in the US. Thank you very much for joining us. Tea Time SEO today. Tea Time SEO really is about connecting other people, encouraging everyone to take a break, and also learning something new. So today we all will learn something new about WordPress. Is it the best CMS, or are there other ones in the marketplace? And we are joined by Niki Mosier, Marko and Lucy Pickering, and they'll be giving their insights today. And I also wanted to say a big thank you to our speakers for joining. Some of these, you may know some of these speakers, they have spoken at other events. And actually, Marko used to talk at Search London. So I've known him now, I think, for 9 years. So thank you all for coming on board. My name is Jo Juliana Turnbull. I'm growth marketer here at Authoritas, and I'm also joined by Carrie Shepherd. We have been running Tea Time SEO since the end of March. If you like what you see, subscribe to our channel and also click a nice little like on our video. Before diving in, I just wanted to share a new feature that we have released at Authoritas. It's called Visibility Explorer, and it lets you see your competitors, identify where you're ranking in the SERPs, and those most important URLs. You can also download up to 500,000 keywords for free. Just go to authoritas.com and enter any domain you would like. Let us know if you have any questions. So I'm going to pass over to Nikki, who will introduce herself, and then we'll later get into the insights. Over to you, Nikki.
Thanks, Jo. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Sorry, it's morning here for me. I'm Nikki Mosher. I'm the head of SEO at 2 Octobers. We're a digital marketing agency based in Denver, Colorado, in the United States. We specialize in most marketing channels: SEO, paid search, organic social, email marketing, and we're definitely very passionate about Google Analytics and making data-driven decisions for our clients. I'm one of those strange SEOs that I really love technical and local SEO, so you'll tend to hear me speaking and sharing things about both areas of SEO. And on the unwork-related side of things, I'm a lover of all things Super Mario Brothers, so sometimes I work those into my presentations as well. And if you want to follow me, I'm active on both LinkedIn and Twitter. We'll turn it over to Marko.
Hey all, I'm Marko. I'm marketer by profession. I'm very biased in this talk because I've been running WordPress for something like 10, 12 years now. So don't listen to me. But otherwise, recently I've co-founded a new startup called Plausible Analytics, and yeah, you can find me on Twitter as well. My full name. Let's go over to Lucy.
Thanks, Marko. Hi, everyone, and thanks for having me, Jo and Carrie. I've really enjoyed this series, so it's good to be able to join today to share some CMS tips. I've worked in digital marketing for 12 years for organisations of different sizes and types, including theatre, travel, and currently B2B software for the Access Group. I also started freelancing this year and will be soon launching a consultancy with my brother, who is a web developer. Our business name is 97 Digital because we share a birthday on the 9th of July, although we were born 7 years apart. And we will be bringing together marketing and web development to support growing businesses online. And in my free time, I love swimming, and I've really been missing going to the pool over the last few months. I've just found a new open water swimming place that I'm going to try this weekend, so I'm looking forward to that. I also like to hula hoop. Recently completed a charity challenge to hula hoop non-stop for 2.6 hours to raise money for a Nottinghamshire domestic abuse prevention charity. And spoiler alert, I'm going to talk about the Umbraco CMS today.
very interesting. I'm very surprised and impressive about your hula hooping. Yes, we're looking forward to hearing more about Umbraco. And thank you for everyone for joining. Azim and Laurence, Raphael, Francis as well, and everyone else that's not signed in. I'm going to pass over to Nikki now, who will share her tips. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. So similar to Marco, I've been working with WordPress for a long time. I got my start in SEO, customizing WordPress websites for small businesses who then would ask me, how do people find my website, which kind of led me to SEO. So I'm definitely a proponent of WordPress. Whatever anybody asks me what CMS they should build their website on, I strongly suggest WordPress. I know that can be sometimes a little scary for people if they're not familiar with how to customize a theme. But some of the things that I love about WordPress, obviously see better SEO performance with it. I did kind of a research project a couple of months ago where I took a handful of keywords and I compared them with some other metrics in search, such as local map position and number of reviews, to kind of get a sense for what platforms performed better. And I saw that the top websites in position 1 tended to be WordPress for the set of keywords that I was looking at over some other platforms. So just kind of solidified my thought that WordPress tends to do better in search. We see a lot of things as far as page speed and things that we're able to control better in the code with WordPress over some other page builder platforms like Wix or Squarespace. I really love the WordPress community. There's a really strong support community when you're looking for help with WordPress. I'm a really big proponent of the WordCamp community. I speak at their Denver event every year. I think pretty much every major city has a WordCamp community, and just the online support community is really robust and can be really helpful if you're getting started with WordPress. There tends to be a really strong developer pool I found with WordPress, which makes it really easy, I think, for people to get started if they're not wanting to kind of tackle the development side of WordPress themselves. Google hasn't officially come out and said they back any specific CMS, but there has been some rumblings that Google supports WordPress, which kind of leads me to believe that, again, it's better for SEO performance. I also really like that WordPress can grow with a business. So whether you're just starting a really small blog or an e-commerce store that you just want to list a couple products and you want to grow that down the line, I love that you have the option to really grow your website as your business grows with WordPress, which I don't feel like you can do with some other platforms. And then, like I said, I've seen firsthand how well it can perform in organic search over some other platforms like Wix and Squarespace. And that also, I think, has to do with your ability to control the code and to be able to develop it, which you can't do with some platforms like Wix and Squarespace. If you can't tell, I'm not a fan of those two platforms. So just kind of some of my favorite things about WordPress. If you haven't gotten started with it, or you're kind of hesitant or having some trouble, I think I would definitely recommend checking out the support community. There's also some really great WordPress SEO plugins like Yoast and Rank Math that can definitely make life easier for you as well. Those are my thoughts about WordPress.
Okay, it's me then. So yeah, like I mentioned, it tells a lot that I run my own personal website on WordPress, and I've been doing that for 10, 12 years. So that's the first. And but I'm also aware that it really depends on your situation and what you're trying to achieve. So I would say always think of that first. But basically, the reasons why I believe WordPress is a good solution for kind of the average case is for example, here is that 37% or so of all websites on the web are hosted on WordPress. So that, again, tells you a lot about the popularity and the kind of the ways you can use WordPress, that it's used by anyone, from somebody like me with a personal website to large corporations, even governmental institutions. So basically anyone with any type of project can use and kind of make WordPress flexible enough. So there are thousands of themes, so you can have a nice design the way you want it. There are just as many plugins or even more plugins, tens of thousands of plugins. Basically, you can kind of add any feature that you can wish for. You can add it without needing to know how to write code or any kind of technical experience is not necessary, because you install a plugin or you install a theme, and basically in most cases, in one click, you're adding something, you're changing the whole design, or you're adding a completely new feature that may take days or might need you to hire developers and so on some different platforms that don't have this kind of community behind it. So this huge community that creates all these themes and plugins and that uses WordPress is a big kind of positive, like we heard before. So that also means that you can search for any issue you might have or any kind of guide you might need. You can search favorite search engine, and you can search for WordPress, and and you can basically find a great guide, a very detailed tutorial on pretty much any topic. That again might be a bit more difficult with a kind of a less popular tool. Last point for me was probably even the more important one, is that it's open source. So basically, which means that kind of the community is in charge, and that means that you can trust that WordPress is here to stay long term, because whatever happens, the code of WordPress will be there. So there's not like one component behind it, and if the business doesn't go well, they might change their whole, they might pivot and change the whole direction, or they might change the software. That doesn't happen with an open source project. So you can trust that it's going to be here to stay in the long run, and that you're fully in control of everything you create on WordPress. That means you can export it and take it somewhere else, or you can run it on your own server, or you can have another host for it, such as WordPress.com and so on. So yeah, those are kind of the summary of why I believe WordPress is kind of the best CMS. That was the question. So I believe WordPress is the best CMS for majority of cases, even though there are hundreds of different CMSs that might be better in some specific situations. I think in general, for majority of projects, I would recommend WordPress.
Okay, so before I start, I should say that I don't have any affiliation with Umbraco other than being a user. And when I'm working with a client or stakeholders to choose a CMS, I would help them explore options that meet their requirements rather than just championing one solution. But with you today, I can tell you that Umbraco is my favorite, and I'll take you through why. So it's an open source enterprise CMS. It's written in C# and it's built upon Microsoft's .NET framework. So as Marko was saying, similar to WordPress being open source, yeah, you can kind of trust that it's not going to expire. It's powerful and flexible enough to make any kind of website. So I've used Umbraco to manage a large local authority website and also for a complex software site. I've never used it for e-commerce, but it does have a licensed product called uCommerce that I've heard is a reasonable alternative to Magento. It's used by companies of all sizes, so from startups to global corporations, including Sony, Vogue, Warner Brothers, and the Woodland Trust. And from experience, I'd say it's really great for sites that need the flexibility to expand. It also has a strong support community. So according to Umbraco's website, there are over 500,000 active installs and over 220,000 active members in its community. So every day, improvements are released by this collaborative group of passionate developers. And it's free. So the platform is free, and I've always used the free version. There are additional packages such as forms and workflows, and Umbraco do offer a paid for support package and hosting, but the majority of the functionality you need is included in the free version. Could we go on to the next slide, please? So comparing it directly to WordPress, I'm currently working with a B2B client and we're moving their website from WordPress to Umbraco. We're creating a completely new website rather than just re-platforming. But one of the early decisions in the project was which CMS best met their requirements. They had frustrations with WordPress, so we're open to alternatives. And I created a pros and cons list to compare Umbraco to continuing with WordPress. And these are some of the Umbraco benefits that I highlighted to them. So I think it's more flexible. So WordPress can be customized through custom code and plugins and extensions, but these can get quite fiddly to manage and kind of keep all those add-ons updated, whereas Umbraco is robust and it's easier to expand within the platform itself. I will say it isn't the most straightforward CMS to configure initially, and you might need a developer to support you at that stage. But once you're up and running, it's fully extendable and its capacity for growth is pretty much unlimited. It's more secure and reliable. So I'm not an expert in website security, but my experience has been that WordPress sites are more vulnerable to hacking, and as a result, IT teams can be reluctant to support and maintain them. So I did read a stat that 3 out of 4 websites that are hacked are on WordPress, which could be just because it's such a prolific platform, and that was from 2017, so hopefully it's improved in more recent years. It's very rare that Umbraco is subject to malicious threats or vulnerabilities, but when they are, they release patches to the community, which can easily be deployed to restore the security of your site. And it's easy to use. So one objection to Umbraco that I've heard previously is that developers don't like it. And while that's a massively sweeping generalization, it's also not true. I think for developers who are unfamiliar with its framework, it might take them some time to get used to, but I think it's worth spending the time to do that. It can easily integrate with existing business systems due to its open and flexible architecture. And the Umbraco API provides programmatic access to every CMS feature. For designers, they are given maximum freedom since there are no restrictions or set frameworks for front-end development. And there are also agencies that create Umbraco themes for sites without a designer. For content editors, it's a fast and user-friendly system that has been designed to optimize productivity. So I do have my own WordPress website for another project, and it does the job okay, but I often hit barriers. Within the theme that I have, I get frustrated when there's changes that I want to make, but I can't do that without a developer. And because of this frustration, I feel like I've never really mastered it, but I am going to look up the WordCamp community, Nikki, because that sounds useful. Umbraco's core focus is being an excellent CMS, and while there are multiple expansions available, they're driven by its community of users. And from an SEO perspective, it has cache strategies and a rapid indexing system that improve the performance of the website. And it's also straightforward for managing different types of redirects. There are kind of specific SEO packages available, but I can't vouch for any of those personally. And if you could flip to the next slide, please. Thanks. So having said all of that, choosing a CMS is all about what's the best fit for your website. Like all digital projects, I always encourage stakeholders to start with their requirements rather than possible solutions. And when I'm asked about whether we should consider replatforming, I find that the perceived kind of shortcoming or limitation usually lies elsewhere. So either around development, design, content, or process, rather than it being the actual CMS. So when choosing a CMS, some of the questions I would ask are, what platform is most suitable to achieve your objectives? Who are your key user groups? What are their needs? What are the user stories? How much support will you need for the setup and the maintenance of the site? And what will your website look like in a year? And will the CMS scale with you? And does it need to integrate with any existing systems now or in the future? So both Umbraco and WordPress are powerful and used by large brands across the world. And what you really need is a professional website that may require expansion, then I'd say that Umbraco is the best solution. However, if you need a website that you can manage yourself or in a marketing team where the content is updated on a daily basis, it might be better to use WordPress. I'm also aware that there are lots of other open source CMS available, such as Craft, Butter, and Kirby. And we're about to go through this selection process to choose the best CMS for our new 9.7 digital website. So what I would end on is it's always worth reviewing your options. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lucy, and going through those tips, sharing your tips, Nikki and Marco. So we have some questions from the audience. I'll pass over to Carrie.
Great, thank you. So first question we have is from Raphael. What is the SEO plugins that you can't live without on WordPress? This is to anyone.
I think for me, one of the plugins that I can't live without is a schema plugin. So Schema App or Schema Pro are a couple of schema plugins that make implementing schema possible without the help of a developer.
On my personal side, I use Yoast, which I guess is the most popular one. But in general, I mean, whichever you install that you like, that works, as long as you can input a few of those tags that they need and some of this schema and so on.
Great, thank you. And for Nikki, do you recommend using page builders with WordPress? What other kind of plugins would you definitely recommend outside of ones for SEO?
Yeah, as far as page builders, I think it's definitely important to test which ones are going to negatively impact load speed, but I found that Elementor tends to be pretty robust as far as needs and doesn't impact page speed too much. And then as far as other plugins, I try to avoid a lot of plugins because they can slow things down. But I think plugins are so dependent on your needs, but I really am also a fan of the Google Sitekit plugin because that helps you sync up Google Analytics and verify Google Search Console and add Tag Manager and all of those things in a really easy to do and clean way.
Great, thank you. And Schema Pro, is that a paid version of a plugin?
Schema Pro is free and Schema App is paid. Schema App has a lot more functionality than Schema Pro, but they're both great in my opinion.
Okay, great, thank you. And Marco, you have a lot of experience with WordPress. Is there a best hosting solution to use for WordPress to make sure that the site loads quickly?
Again, because WordPress is so popular, there are probably hundreds of different hosting solutions that are kind of customized and made for WordPress. And I think if you go to like WordPress.org, they have a few different ones that they recommend. Me personally, I use the one that's called greengeeks.com. And that's more because I care about, I try to reduce the kind of the carbon footprint and the impact my own website has on the environment. And Green Geeks does it by using renewable energy. So not all the hosts care much about that aspect, and I use Green Geeks because of that. But obviously they also load fast, and they are also specialized in WordPress. So yeah, there are many options.
That's really useful. Thank you. We have a question here. Do any of you have any experience with SEO framework plugin versus Yoast plugins?
I don't personally. I've used Yoast and Rank Math as far as specific SEO plugins go.
I've used the SEO framework. I think I like the guys, I like what they're doing. And I like one fact that they're doing is that they're focusing on being lightweight. So one of their kind of sales points is that compared to a more traditional WordPress SEO plugin is that they only focus on the most important aspects, and they kind of don't have any impact on your dashboard loading or on your website itself. So I like that about them.
Yeah, I've only used Yoast.
Okay, well, thank you. With Google's announcement about Web Vitals, site speed is going to be more critical than ever. Any suggestions as to how to build your website in the right way to get it as fast as possible?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote a whole article on how I got, from whatever I was at to 100 on Google page speed score or whatever they call it. So what I do personally, I mean, it starts really by, picking a team and picking the plugins that that are lightweight in the first place. So such as the one I just described, they are focused on being lightweight. So their code is good. They don't have too much kind of bloat that you don't need. So that will be one. But I'm looking right now on the plugins that I use, and one that helps me a lot is Short Pixel Image Optimizer, they're called. Basically, that plugin takes every image that I upload and it can compress it. And basically, I think it's very normal for me to see something like 70–80% reduction in the size of my image, even though I with my eyes, I cannot see any difference in the image itself. So I think if you have a site and you publish a lot of content, a lot of images and so on, having one plugin that kind of compresses your images can make a huge difference, and you can save, say, several megabytes of load on every post, because the image by default might be, say, 2 megabytes, and by running it through one of these plugins, which is pretty much automated, you get down to, say, 100 kilobytes, which is a huge difference.
Anything else anybody wants to add?
Something that we're reviewing actually at the moment at the Access group is the amount of tags that we have firing on each page. And because that's such a large site, it's kind of just reviewing that we really need that to be happening. I know it doesn't slow down the site a lot through each individual tag, but when you sort of build them up, it's just another step that that needs to go through. So yeah, I think just looking at exactly what is loading on your page and making sure that it's definitely necessary.
That's really useful, thank you. Anything from you, Nikki?
I think both Marko and Lucy covered it pretty well. I think the one thing I would want to add would be, as far as also making sure that what you're paying attention to the order in which things loads. You have, and this sometimes involves the developer, but making sure that your less important resources and less important code are loading further on in the process, so that way the most important things are loading quicker and are loading first. And then also paying attention to redirects. Having a lot of unnecessary redirects and redirect chains can also slow down your load time. And similar to Marko, I recently did a page speed series with more of a local SEO perspective, but for the local U blog, and I can share that link after this as well.
Great, thank you. Yeah, it'd be really great if we could have a link to that blog. Marko, you mentioned optimizing images. Do you have any recommended plugins that will handle image optimizations and flag up large images? Or what was the name of the one that you mentioned?
Short Pixel. So basically, I don't have to do anything myself. As I upload images on the post, it just does the work in the background. I mean, I can go in the kind of settings of the plugin and see how much they saved. And when I go in there, it's on average, I save something like 70-something% on each image that I upload. So that's kind of like more set it and forget kind of way, which I prefer for this kind of things. You don't want to have to go manually and compress each image that you upload. And this
Sorry,
works
so
very
Marko,
well.
so that was a Short Pixel plugin, was it?
Short Pixel, yeah.
Okay.
Well, the full name is Short Pixel Image Optimizer. I'm just looking right now in my WordPress admin to find the name, but yeah.
Okay, great.
They're very good.
Great, thank you. And can you also share your post about page speed, please, with us?
Sure.
Tamara says that she's heard a lot of negative feedback about Divi and that it creates a lot of unnecessary code. Does anyone have any thoughts on Divi?
I would say talking about these page builders these days is a bit kind of not so relevant anymore, because these days you can use WordPress by itself. They have this new thing called Gutenberg, which basically allows you to create. It's so cool what type of content you can create just by kind of dragging and dropping, and kind of the same stuff that you can do on a page builder. But this one is inbuilt into WordPress, so you kind of don't rely on a third party that can kind of add lots of bloat and lots of weight to the site. So I think if you're looking for a page builder, try with this inbuilt Gutenberg first. And obviously, if you don't like that one, if that doesn't work for you, then look for a different solution. But the inbuilt solution will always be better in terms of having your site being more lightweight.
Great, thank you. And Lucy, you're talking about Umbraco. Where can we find out more information about this? And do they have the same sort of community like in WordPress? So do they have kind of like events like WordCamp?
Yeah, so they do have the same sort of online community, it sounds like. And they do have events, but they tend to be sort of London-based if they're in the UK, and then they have an annual conference. I think it's called Code Garden in Denmark, where they're based. You can find out more about it at umbraco.com. Give you a lot more information about it there, and you can probably see like examples of how it's used on different sites.
That's great, thank you. I think those are all the questions we have for today. Thank you all for joining us, and I'll hand back over to Joe.
Thanks very much. Yes, we had a lot of questions today. Did we ask with Azim as well about the plugins image optimization? Is that the one you talked about, Marco? Okay, great. So loads of tips there. Thank you very much to our speakers, Lucy, Nikki, and Marco. They will be available on Twitter, and obviously they're always on Twitter, but we'll tag them on Twitter with a link to this video and on LinkedIn as well. Please follow up with any other questions that you have. We've run out of time now, but we are back on Monday, and we're back with Dixon, Marit, and Chris. They have been on the Tea Time show before, and they'll be talking about internal linking and content structure. We will be running Tea Time SEO in July, so please get in touch with us if you would like to be on the Tea Time SEO stage, and we will be confirming topics this week. So thank you very much to our speakers for joining us. As is mentioned, if you've loved the video or liked it, give us a nice little like there, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we look forward to seeing you on Monday. Thank you all.